One of the problems with filming when it's 91 degrees outside is that my phone overheated. So perhaps you missed the last part, which is the challenge. My challenge to you is to point out the nuisance violations at this particular property. I'm very transparent about what I'm doing here and have more than 250 podcasts about my educational and credentials associated with knowing what I'm doing here. Like I said, I worked with Virginia Tech, Ohio State University. I worked with a number of books. I have a permaculture design certification. Now, that doesn't make me right. I can understand where other people are coming from when they feel like that they're looking at a nuisance when all they're really seeing is an erosion stabilization method that is quite common not only in their region, but quite common after a forestry activity. In fact, the reference pictures I have around the neighborhood, none of these other properties have ever been cited. Again, it's not the city's inspector's responsibility to cite the properties. The city of Martinsville is a complaint-based system, so please do not harass the city inspectors. That will not help the situation. What will help the situation is to educate people about what a natural landscape looks like. So the contest is either to post, when you share this video, what your landscape looks like, or your favorite landscape looks like, or a natural landscape you see in the area. You'll see the Natural History Museum. I've done a lot of videos about their landscaping. There's a couple restaurants that have beautiful landscaping here. And then there, of course, there's a lot of the reference properties that use a terrace-like system that I have. And by the way, I had a licensed forester and professional engineers support the original project that people complained about. And then when the inspectors came out, they either gave up or they recognized that a professional engineer had given me that. I didn't come up with the design. The professional engineer came up with the design. Now, I will admit, grass that's growing a foot or 2 foot per week can confuse people because the grass grows so quick. Lawn grass doesn't typically grow that fast. Mine does grow pretty fast because I've got enzymes in the soil. My soil biology is really good. The pH levels are really good. And so the grass does grow crazy. I get a lot of compliments on the grass. I get a lot of compliments on the irises. And by the way, a couple of my neighbors have incredible and beautiful wildflower beds, and there's one down by Lake Lanier. Now, I am revealing a lot of privacy information, but again, I was already on the front page of the newspaper with a potential grand jury criminal investigation to declare my property a nuisance. That requires 4 citizens to sign on a document to make that happen. Now, it disappeared for various reasons, but ultimately, it was hard to evidence that my house was a nuisance because it looks like what I just showed you. I have had medical problems, so I always have landscapers and you know, the people mow the grass for me. I don't get out and mow the grass. Now, I'm doing this because I need to work my physical strength up and maintain the grass, because I don't like it to be too tall, because so you have to maintain visuals on the road, so there's a clearance. I'm following all the rules. But if you find something in these pictures that violates, I'm in the city of Martinsville, please point it out, because I have not gotten a written notice to specify which violation in which I have in order for me to comply. Now, I'll get a notice on the door, and they'll come back and re-inspect, and then they'll not bother me for a whole year in this particular case. And so I'm not blaming the city. I have respect for these inspectors. It's a tough job. I know a few of them. They're qualified people. They know what they're doing, but they cannot go on the property unless without declaring it a nuisance. Then they can go on the property, but they can't go on the property because it's trespassing, and that's the way the rules are. And I understand that. So they're not able to verify these claims. However, they do investigate them. So the real problem here is a neighbor or multiple neighbors. Now, I know most of my neighbors. They're really good people, and I feel that I have a relationship with them that they would point out if they didn't like the way the grass looked or they didn't like how it was mowed. And there was a case where legitimately the house was in disrepair because I had a heart condition, a medical condition, where I could not take care of the grass. A lot of stuff was going on, and I did not maintain it. I was not cited during those times. Now, because I'm constantly taking videos, if you pick through my podcast or you pick through my video log, you'll see those pictures. And again, it was taken care of, just like when I was standing up on top of the truck. So I don't want to be too long-winded with this. If in those pictures, and there'll be a link below if you see this and you didn't see me standing on the truck and stuff, because I'm not sure if the camera overheating got all that. But in those pictures or any of my podcasts, you see a clear violation of a public nuisance order or landscape for the city of Martinsville. Spell it out. If you've had a lawn that looks similar and you've done so in order to facilitate beneficial insects, provide habitat for nesting birds, provide habitat for young does and other deer. I've even shown you pictures of the back when I show you the deer and the baby deer that walk around out there, which is just so beautiful because you can just sit out there and check those little things out. And you know, I dream of learning the bow hunt. But on the other side, those things used to eat all my flowers and eat all my garden anyway. So without a garden and without flowers here, I can just enjoy the deer instead of being pissed at them all the time when they're eating stuff. Anyway, if you've had any problems with the city giving you nuisance orders on wildflowers, on garden beds, or having vegetables in your front yard or side yard, or some other thing that you're just confused, well, you can post that as well. Now, for privacy purposes, because you haven't been on the front page of the newspaper, you don't need to post your address. You can just post the picture and people can comment. But I really want to understand this. Why is it that some people can look at the environment and say it's beautiful, and other people look at the environment and can be complaining about property values? And that's the last thing I'm going to say here. There is a legitimate concern about property values. However, the state in which my property has been maintained and the other properties in the near area of where I live has not impacted property values. Properties have been bought, and sold again. And in fact, there used to be a real estate investor on this street who bought and flipped the property for significant 5-figure profits, which is not typical in this area. And they've also been other people who have bought and then changed jobs and sold and made money on their house at this particular court in which I live on. That is a demonstration, a clear demonstration that what I'm doing and how I'm maintaining my house is not impacting property values. In fact, when I do sell the house, which is my intention because I'm tired of all this stuff, and then again, I have choices. I just bought land out in the county and then I'll just go be a farmer out in the county. I understand I look like a farmer. I like farming. I like, you know, even though I'm definitely allergic to grass, I like growing things and being a good steward of the environment. So my point being, whatever you think is the problem, write it in the comments. Share this video with your friends. You can share it and rag on it if you want. I want to make sure that we get the largest perspective because I'm going to go through every comment and I'm going to take notes on every comment and I'm going to try to understand those people who think this yard, as I showed it to you, looks like it's unkept. And then I also want to hear from the people who notice the certain plants that are here. The previous owners of this property were biologists, and this property used to have on it 5 species of ferns. It used to have fruiting, it had some fruiting dogwoods, it had other things on it. But through the alliterations of the city coming back and telling me it was unkept and telling me that it was messed up, I finally just cut it all out, actually dug up all the plants and moved them to another property. But I basically had a landscaper come in and I told the landscaper, do whatever you think, you know, make it look like it was when it was first built. And by the way, removing the trees in the back is exactly how the property was when it was first built. There were no trees in the back more than 50 years ago. I think the house is 70 years old, so I looked on satellite pictures. But my point is, share the video, share your comments. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Please don't harass the city of Martinsville. I don't need any more trouble, and I don't think that they're the problem. I think the problem is a simple misunderstanding of what nature looks like and what a good habitat or environment looks like in this kind of space. My house is zoned to state. I almost have 2 acres of land. I'm backed up to 40 acres of trees. Okay? So this isn't a little house in a neighborhood where everybody's on top of each other. And unfortunately, the one person, or maybe more, I don't know, could be more, has put up such a fight and just kept coming back to the plate and getting knocked down every time, but coming back to the plate that it's just not worth my time and effort. I got better things to do than to worry about what someone else thinks of my yard. I'm not doing anything wrong. I got expert advice and opinions on how to do this. I've had lawyers, plural, look at the ordinance, look at reference photographs that were not taken by me. The reference photographs that were in the newspaper, reference photographs taken by other people, and have made a determination that what I'm doing is appropriate for the conditions of the land and within the guidelines of state and federal laws associated with forestry activities and within the guidelines of the city, and then have concluded that the city demonstrated that they had no problem with what's going on here. I've lived in this house since 2012, and I've managed it in various states since 2012, of which is, you know, on my podcast. So I feel like I'm in a new chapter of life. This is just helping me forward to go to the next thing that I'm going to do. And I'm leaving the house in a better condition than it was. When I got this house, trees were so tall they went over the deck, and they were over the front porch, and they were all rubbed up against the windows, and their foundation had problems, and the basement leaked, and now it's got all new stuff. And I was hoping to stay here a little longer, but again, I'm leaving it better than I found it. That's the big theme of this, is I'm leaving it better than I found it. And if you can find anything, nitpick if you want. Zoom into those pictures if you want, okay? Please don't drive by. The city took a bus and drove by to show my house off. And then I talked to some of the people on the bus who were kind of confused that they were pointing this out, because it looks no different than anything else on the property. So I'm not saying it looks good, okay, from a general perspective, but it's certainly not a nuisance. It's certainly not bad. It's appropriate for the area. It's appropriate for what other people have in their backyards, side yards, front yards, and in the long run, the property will be better for it. I want to thank you for watching. I'm Justin Hitt with Prosperity Homestead. You can visit www.prosperityhomestead.org. And if you figure out the property address from the newspaper clipping, look it up in the Martinsville-Henry County GIS system, which has year-over-year images of the property itself, as well as Google Maps is up to date as well. So you can see the alliterations of the property over time and how it's looking better now than it ever has. Again, I'm Justin Hitt. I'm a permaculture design consultant. I got a certified Virginia Master Naturalist, and I don't assume I know anything. That's why I work with experts to implement things like this. Unfortunately, bad apple makes things, can make the whole basket sour, but I'm not too worried, and I thank you for watching. See you in the next podcast.